or recording it.
We're live. So, a warm welcome to all our viewers. This is me, Devsudvi Yadwanshi, on Democratic Dialogues, and I welcome you to today's segment with Mr. Avik Saha, who is the National President of Jai Kisan Andolan. Sir, a warm welcome to you.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
Sir, if you can just give a little bit of introduction about yourself, that would be really helpful.
Well, I started my life as a lawyer, never understood why people who do things with their mind are paid so much more than those who do things with their hand. Was always attracted to agriculture. When Jai Kisan started in 2015, I immediately joined Yogendra Yadav ji. And since then, I have been part of the farmers' movement in whatever way I could. I don't have what is traditionally understood as savings. So, part time, I do my profession also to keep life and livelihood, home and hearth going. And but majority of the time is in farmers movement, which moved from phases. Jai Kisan Andolan did several yatras, Jalhal Pad Yatra, Tractor Yatra. We understood that by ourselves we are not strong enough to take on this government, which is hell bent on, you know, uh, capitalizing agriculture, which means basically handing it to the capital lobby. Uh, Unfortunately for the people who died, but fortunately for the farmers, 2017 Mandsaur firing happened, 6 farmers died, and all of a sudden, farmers' movements all over the country, 80 to start with, came together. We formed All India Kisan Sangharsh Coordination Committee, did great protest work, put the government on the back foot, and in 2019, Mr. Modi won the election again and thought that he could continue torturing the farmers. 2020, in the midst of COVID, we decided we needed more strength. So at Gurdwara Rakabganj in October 2020, in the midst of COVID, Sanyukt Kisan Morcha was born with AIKSCC as one of the principal glue. And well, the rest is history. We marched to Delhi on 26th of November, stayed there for 363 days. Government ultimately, understood their dedication. Tapasya was slightly off balance, withdrew the 3 farm laws, which the farmers had never wanted. And Sanyukt Kisan Morcha continues now. We are on the actual demand, the real demand, which is legal guarantee of minimum support for price for all the crops, for all the farmers in the country, and a method of procurement. And this I want to stop and clarify. We don't wish the government to buy everything. We don't mean that at all. We mean the government to be the arbiter, the policeman at the place where transaction takes place so that farmers get MSP. Just as the government acts as a policeman for MRP for a packet of biscuits that you can buy. How does the government implement that? So,
Yes.
this is the journey in short till now. Uh, it was very short. There were huge periods of pain, sacrifice, uncertainty, internal misunderstandings. Uh, Sanyukt Kisan Morcha works on a common minimum program of about 6 principal demands, of which only one, which is the withdrawal of the 3 farm laws, black laws, have taken place. 5 remain pending. I was just reading something this morning that the committee formed by the government has recommended that a law for guaranteeing MSP should be formulated. But I don't know whether the government is going to accept that committee's recommendation because when Mr. Modi was the chief minister of Gujarat, he had made the same recommendation. And the Swaminathan Commission, the Indian Farmers Commission, had made the same recommendation. So, well, we are a couple of inches ahead, but long, long road left.
Okay. So that brings me to my first question. Of course, part of it you've already answered. Why are our farmers continuing to protest? One of the reasons you've said is MSP, the minimum support price. So, what are the other reasons? And as we are speaking right now, if I'm to understand, they are sitting at Delhi border, and they are also protesting in Calcutta, if I'm not mistaken. So, what is the reason behind them continuing to protest once the three farm laws have already been repealed and or withdrawn?
It's it's the question of the interview. This is the question, and I'm going to start with humor because I don't want everybody to start crying. The farmers, roughly 55 to 60% of this country, and more if you consider all the vendors who depend on selling farm produce, all your sabziwalas in the mandi markets, are demanding one thing. They are demanding a decent livelihood. Just like the sarkari workers, sarkari people, they demand DA. They have a fight. They have a pay commission, which actually goes into their cost of living and says you must pay these people this much, and the government listens to that. So
Yes.
when 70% of this country lives far below what is required for survival, what demand do you make except to say that please let me survive? That's the demand. MSP is a component which we hope will somewhat fulfill that demand.
To
Less
ensure a
than,
basic level of subsistence, you mean?
yes, less than 25,000 rupees, which is the class D staff salary of the central government at entry point. Farmers can't survive because they have the same cost of living as the class D employee. So the movement is to ensure that the farmers get this. And the government is using the dole route to do this. But by the way, the dole is also not a law, it's a policy. So if Mr. Modi wants, he can stop it tomorrow. So the farmers are not looking for dole. The farmers are saying, give us a methodology. You are the government. You're supposed to have a vision. You're supposed to have a plan. Give us a price of our crops that take us to that 25,000 rupee level. If you think that will upset the economy, then tell us what your alternative, what your plan B is. But you cannot compel us to live decade after decade in this penury where, and let me just give you a figure, more than 3 crore farmers and farm workers in Bengal are migrant workers. In the eastern zone alone, Odisha, Bengal, Jharkhand, and Bihar, there are 12 crore migrant workers. Now, if you were a migrant worker, you and me, what would be our demand? Please don't force me to leave my house, my wife, my father, my mother, my small children, and go to a faraway place just so that I can send back enough money so that they can, you know, eat, go to a sarkari school, and somehow survive. So the farming community is becoming nomadic in the search of income, and the demand is that the government must stabilize their income and keep them. I also want to tell you, as a lady, this is creating a great social turmoil in the villages with all the men, able bodied men absent. Uh, crime, crime against women, uh, raising the whole business of raising children. Everything is impacted. The nation has gone back several decades due to the not farmers not getting a sustainable income. So it's
Yeah.
not a union bazi that mere ko zyada de do, please give me more, I want more, I want more. We're talking about actually keeping the country together as it should be, as a society, as a compact, composite unit.
Um, Now, I want to pose a question which comes from the right wing's ecosystem very regularly. So, the right wing ecosystem has systematically accused the farmers of protesting because they don't want to pay GST. What do you say to this accusation, and what is the truth? So, their whole premise is that the middlemen, who are not exactly the farmers, they don't want to pay GST on uh, whatever they're trading in. That's why these protests have been manufactured. So what do you say to that?
Two things. Farmers pay GST. When a farmer buys a bag of fertilizer, there is GST on it. Every consumable in the farmer's house, including the clothes he wears, comes with GST. So, farmers, as consumers, and every Indian as a consumer is paying GST. The right wing should be told, should be shown the press releases of GST collection every month, where their own government is so proud of GST collection rising.
Yeah.
Second, GST on farm produce. Farmers have no problem if the government wants to charge GST on farm produce, so long as I get my minimum support price. I am a makka, I am a maize farmer. I have a GST of 1800 rupees or so. You pay me the price. You load GST on it. You take it to the market. If the market can absorb that price with GST, what is my problem? Why should I protest and object?
Yeah.
So, and this is Mr. Modi directly in Supreme Court in February 2015 in a sworn affidavit saying, and when I say Mr. Modi, I mean his Sarkar, his principal secretary, saying that we cannot guarantee MSP by law because it will disbalance the market. Market का संतुलन बिगड़ जाएगा. This is the position of the government in writing on oath. So, when you ask the GST question, my answer is please charge GST, but make sure कि market का संतुलन बिगड़ ना जाए. It's in your hands.
That makes me wonder also if as they had planned to give the control of the farming industry into Adani's hand and Ambani's hands, would they not be bigadifying the santulan of the market by overcharging on the produce if they had become the oligarchic controllers of the farming industry?
There is no recorded history in the economy of the industrial world where a monopoly has led to decrease in prices and relief for consumers. I mean, if I were a monopolist, what would be my impulse?
To drive up
I'm,
profits.
everybody has an impulse on profit, but it's something more than that. I must have control of the market in a way where I can have whatever profit I want. That's the reason why monopolies are formed. In a free market, when there are millions competing, which is our village hearts, everybody comes with their brinjals, and price discovery takes place. Uh, that would work. But in a monopoly run by a few, oligarchic, a set of oligarchs, uh, prices will have to increase because that's the logic of a monopoly.
Yeah.
But that's not the only problem. The problem is food security is the largest security of the country, even a little more than the border security. I know this could be debatable, but your border could be invaded, and typically you could be taken over. India has been taken over thousands of years for thousands of years. But without food security, you're dead. So you don't need the border anyway.
Hmm.
So when you hand over, why are they asking for this? Why were the three laws made? A, to control, to solely control production, therefore, to control the supply chain, and finally, to control the prices.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Modi, if his sins were to be listed, his biggest sin would be कि इस देश को भूखे मारने के लिए, to cause hunger deaths in this country, he was supporting a few people. And unless the farmers had protested in the way they did, that would have probably happened. And the effort
Yeah.
is not stopped. They are trying everything through the back door to go back to that position. Because I'll tell you one more thing. Why does Mr. X want to be a food monopolist? Because that's one business which A is not dependent on season, B not dependent on style, C not dependent on preferences. Which business is better than this? Where the
Yeah.
consumer is compelled to consume at whatever price you bring the product to the shelf. Nobody will stop eating food in protest because it's expensive.
Yeah. It's a monopolist's beautiful dream to be in sort of in this sort of industry where, as you rightly said, that you know the consumers are forced to consume. They don't have a choice. It's not a luxury. It's a necessity. So that brings me to the next question. Could you also share with us what are the challenges that farmers are facing aside from what you've already spoken about? What are the other, say, for example, logistical nightmares, other things? Also, one of the things that I have heard in a lot of narratives and debates and conversations in the public domain is that the farmers of India are actually already heavily subsidizing the cost of producing food for all of us. So, could you speak to these challenges and what are the farmers going through? I would like to know.
Uh, you can divide the challenges into internal and external. The internal challenges are that demands of farmers in a vast country like India are vast. The sugarcane farmers' demand is completely different from the bajra farmers' demand. Other than the common points of MSP and crop insurance, and there are common points. But otherwise, due to international pressure, international marketing pressure, free trade agreements, all these demands, to unify the demands is a huge challenge. That's a big internal challenge, which is why a farmer of a particular crop may not find solidarity with the farmer of another crop.
Yes,
There is
absolutely.
also an infrastructural challenge on the farmer, which is divisive. Uh, the most visible, memorable, rememberable one is the Kaveri water crisis.
Yes.
The Karnataka farmers say, don't give water to the Tamil Nadu farmers.
Yes.
So, and the third is the other language, other barriers of language. So, crop divisiveness of crop, divisiveness of infrastructure, and then uh, the simple challenge of distance and language. How do you make Tamil Nadu farmers come to protest in Delhi, or the Delhi farmers to come to protest in Kerala? So the government plays this, that they are too thinly spread. Why do student movements succeed? Because you can find 1,000 students in in a matter of 500 or 1,000 square meters. They are
Yes.
there, come to college. The farmers are so widespread, and it's so difficult to aggregate them, that in fact Sayukt Kisan Morcha is the first experiment that worked. And I'll confess, and I'll put this in the public domain through your channel, that none of us believed. that 5 lakh farmers would aggregate in Delhi. We who were organizing it, none of us believed that food would not be a problem for feeding 5 lakh people. Our initial estimate was 30,000 people, 3 days. What happened? So the strength of the people whose backs are to the wall is unimaginable. Actually, that's why it took 11 months, because Mr. Modi and his advisors could not understand the strength of desperation. It's like the tiger cannot assess the speed of the deer it is chasing. The deer is running for life. The tiger is running for a meal.
Huh.
So these are the internal challenges. The external challenges are, there is only one external challenge. No government in independent India has understood that nature created India to be the food bowl of the world, to be surrounded by oceans on three sides which evaporate enormous amount of water, which converts into rain, and then to create a rain barrier like the Himalayas so that it doesn't escape anywhere else, and through that huge mountain chain to have thousands of rivers coming in carrying fertile silt. I mean, when you go to Goa, you know that nature created Goa for sea, beach, surf, and sand.
Yes.
India was created by nature for agriculture. And for some reason, agriculture is the lowest priority. The only priority the government has is, oh, there are lot of voters in agriculture. But could that be the backbone of the Indian economy? Oh, yes. All the agro processing industry worldwide is controlled by companies which are based out of countries which have no agriculture. You know,
Ironical.
the baby food that Nestle sells, 80% of the stuff is made by farmers made in India. But there is no Indian company that would do that. So if you look at agriculture, that solves your not only your own food problem, you become a net export. You could become the food bowl of the world. Majority, 60% of the industry in the world is agro-based industry. You could industrialize rapidly, and this unemployment problem and the darkness into which we have pushed youth, into the uncertainty we pushed youth, the whole country would be actually a sone ki chidiya, a golden country. You produce food, you export food, because most countries don't have the geography, the natural resources to produce food. So you are the exporter of food, you're exporter of finished food, food products and produce. You have over, I mean, you have a shortage of workers. India would have to import workers if this
Yeah.
policy was followed. And is this a story? Because I'm not an economist. Any economist will challenge me and say that this guy is a neta kind of guy, is giving a bhashan. But I base my argument on only one thing. At a time when petroleum, coal, etc., were unknown and useless minerals, and the only valuable minerals were gold and silver, and when India did not have a huge supply of that underground. I mean, India is not was never the largest producer of gold or any such thing. We have just a little bit of gold. Why was it that for thousands of years the kings of India were so rich, so wealthy, that somebody's 6,000 kilometers away in Macedonia decided that that's the place I should go to loot? Why did why did the barbarians, the Mughals, why did everybody want to come to India? Because of the wealth of the rulers. And where did that wealth come from? It didn't come from gold and silver. It came from agriculture, which they converted into gold and silver, of course.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't think that is debatable. I don't think that the wealth of Indian rulers is debatable. I don't think the invasions of India to loot that wealth is debatable. So the only question that remains to be answered is where did that wealth come from? It was agriculture. So I wish from Nehru ji to Modi ji, somebody had said, "Oh my God, you know what? I will not do anything, but I'll make my country the food capital of the world. I'll base all my industries on that. I can still make automobiles and iron, steel, and aluminium and all of that, but that's not my focus area." See, this Europe centricity, the industrial revolution that took place in Europe, the emulation and copying of that to look updated and civilized was our blunder. We never focused. It's like we sold Goa as a mountain resort. That was wrong.
It would be absolutely wrong. So I would just like to also ask you, like, so when you speak about agriculture becoming a thriving industry in India and that has not been focused upon, do you think that it could potentially be, since already it employs such a large population in India, wouldn't it then become a source of employment for people wherever they stay, so that we wouldn't see the large amount of migration to urban or semi urban areas or cities in search of livelihood, being uprooted from their village and their culture and their families?
Absolutely. Man. And there's a living example of this. Kerala. Instead of corporatizing industry, Kerala followed the cooperative model. You get out on Kochi airport, you walk into the Kerala produce shop. I couldn't believe it. From a banana, they make pickle, and there were 7 or 8 products. I mean, I come from Bengal. This is also a banana area. I didn't know you could do that with bananas. I didn't know you could do that with fruits. And they are all made by small, village centric cooperatives, largely women oriented. There is income in the hands of women. And believe me, when there is income in the hands of women, it goes into upgrading life, it goes into bettering the next generation. It doesn't go into daru.
Or
So,
Jua?
oh, and I mean, we could list all the vices, but my point, Kerala works.
Yeah.
And this model works irrespective of the ideology of the government that rules Kerala. So, there's a living model. We won't do it. We will say, no, no, no. It must be Mr. Adani who must set up a fortune oil company. Let me tell you, the tide is turning. Let me tell you for sure that the days of asking from the government and expecting from the government are coming to an end. That after the farmers' movement, people have understood that if we take this up ourselves, it'll work. Because this government, and I quote Mr. Modi's team, कानून संसद में बनती है सड़क पे नहीं. People have shown that सड़क की जरूरत से ही कानून बनती है, संसद जाके बन जाती है. But संसद is not the place where the law will be made. The law, the requirement of the law will be on the streets, and you people, our representatives, will go to that building and make that law for us. So
Absolutely.
yes, farming has a great future. India has a great future. Indians have a great future. We just have to, reboot and boot out the leadership which does not have the vision to understand this.
Absolutely. Just wanted to share an example. I read this book when I was a teenager, and it really impacted me to a very deep level. Where it was on the Green Revolution in Cuba, and it spoke about how when the USSR broke down in 1990, post that, because all the fuel and everything used to come from USSR to Cuba, and because of the imposed embargo from the US's side, Cuba suddenly became cut off and without fuel overnight. And they were into monocultures of, sugarcane production and sugar production and all of that. So overnight, everything, all the cars on the streets, everything came to a standstill. And one decision of theirs to uproot even the front lawn of the president's residence and plant crops there in balconies and in common garden areas of societies. They went from a deficit, from not having enough to eat, to a country that was producing surplus, not just for their domestic subsistence, but they were exporting food. So I think of that, and what you just said, what can India do in that perspective would be immense.
Day before yesterday, I was speaking somewhere, and my agricultural guru, I was talking about people being able to produce food, and he spoke about the Cuba thing, and he knew the name. He's an extremely erudite man. There's a name for this, the experiment in Cuba. Uh, I don't like to talk about myself, but this is important. From producers, we have become consumers. So when a nation has a larger percentage of population as producers and a smaller percentage as consumers, it economically thrives. The Keynesian model was that debt and consumption pushed economy up. Uh, we believe differently. So much against, I live in an apartment building with great resistance from many people who could not understand exactly what this nutcase was doing. We have grown on rectangular pots what I now believe will be 25% of our food consumption, non cereal food consumption. Uh, One could say that you are a farmer's leader. Are you trying to deprive farmers of, their market? The answer is no. The answer is that once you start growing food with your own hands, you understand the pain that goes in growing food and the pain that the farmer is going through. And all this food that is growing on my terrace right now is without a drop of chemical fertilizer, a drop of pesticide. Oh, there are plenty of leaves being eaten, but that's a life form too. If we are going to be so anthropocentric and eat everything ourselves, how are the other living beings going to survive? But all the food is healthy. This is winter. I started the experiment because it's winter. Leafy vegetables are this is too much to consume, and I'm happy to tell you that there are three more buildings, just three in Calcutta, who've said, "Wow, let's do this also." And there are rich people owning land, which very expensive land in the midst of the city, which are empty and left as investments, which are starting. So the Cuba way is an easy way, provided you have faith in your hands. The problem is, I will take you back to what I started. There is too much dependence, too much respect, too much money being pushed into here, and too little here. So, well, I had a great lettuce salad this morning, and I'm happy that I was the producer of that. Production will lead to understanding nature better, which is the elephant in the room, because we could possibly be on the brink of extinction where Modi, Adani, all your ideology, none of it might matter. But that's
Yeah,
a different topic for another day, I suppose.
yeah. Brings me to the last question. I know by now I've understood that you don't expect much from the government of India, but I still want to ask you the question. What do you expect from the government of India? And what do these protests, like when you're protesting, what do you expect out of these protests?
I see the government as two people. A, the representatives. From them, I expect policy suited to India, not an emulation of Japan or Switzerland. And two, the other government are the government employees who are the princes of India. If they start serving the people, if the constitutional understanding that government servants are here to serve, everything will change. In short, I'm saying both public representatives and paid government servants ought to act as a collective of public service. This is what we expect. This is what we will ensure that will happen. I can tell you one thing in Punjab, no agricultural development officer has the courage to sit in his office and not visit the field of a farmer who has a problem and needs the service of the ADO.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
They simply go and say, सा ये लो जी गाड़ी में बैठ जाओ खेती में चलो और क्या प्रॉब्लम है देख लो. There are I don't have a count. I'm sorry. I should have that statistics, but fairly speaking, there must be 10,000 plus agricultural development officers of India. If just they do their work, everything will change. So the expectation is to make the people's representative and across parties work and the Sarkari Babu's work. I mean, sorry, I don't mean to be sarcastic. And the government workers, the government servants work. If that happens, this country is this country is different. It has always been different. It has the potential of being different, and it will become different because people across across different sectors are now rising and understanding that it's time we took control instead of instead of well praying to God or treating another human being as God. And as a confirmed atheist, I tell you, God lives through us and our actions. If you think he's up in the sky or living in a stone image, then you need to revise your whole understanding of what God is.
Absolutely. But before I end, I also wanted to address this since you've been speaking about, focusing local and looking at a very Indian solution to an Indian problem instead of emulating other countries. Now, Modi himself and Modi Sarkar has, of course, they've made a lot of campaigns and statements and things like that, very grandstanding gestures like make in India and think local and whatever else. But the actions are the total opposite. They don't have the action to back up their statements. So what do you say to this and what is your observation on this whole phenomenon?
I think everybody in the country has only one example to remember and be horrified about. That's demonetization. So a policy, a policy is a piece of paper. The last page of that paper is the implementation part. So all corporates, you see, I have been to Ladakh and there was Coca-Cola available. How does that company do it? It simply decides, does market research, figures out what kind of beverage people most people prefer to have, and then set up a network that reaches that bottle to Ladakh. So if the government starts behaving like a well managed corporation, owned by the people, like the Kerala cooperatives. We're in business. It's not complicated. Everybody will tell you it's very complicated because you have to stand for election and caste equation and religion and this and that. Yeah, I can give you a lot of examples, but I won't bore your viewers. There are people, Shankar Guhan Yogi, I'll give an example, has become an MP again and again and again without affiliation to any political party, simply on the basis of wealth. Wouldn't you, wouldn't I, wouldn't all of the viewers want our representative to be responsive, responsible, and accountable to us? What do
Absolutely.
we care if if the logo of their political party is a flower or an axe or a sickle or whatever?
Hmm.
So we are a great nation currently led by very bad leaders. That's where the change needs to happen.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor to have had this conversation with you today, Mr. Saha. So, really, really grateful.
Thank you, Devsubi. It was nice. It was nice, and I don't know. Uh, we've had a talk. I hope I can walk the talk. I can do something about the talk, and I hope many others. And I'm not exceptional. I know I am average. As my teacher Yogendra Yadav says, knowledge is in three parts: A, to know what you don't know; B, to seek answers
Yes.
and knowledge about what you don't know; and C, to then again go back to point one and find out what else you don't know. So if we all start acting and working like the roof example, terrace example I gave you, which is easy, and also think and talk and interact and act as a community, because talking together is the greatest form is the one of the best things human beings do. But if they start working together, I think we'll be able to go where we wish to go.
No, absolutely. So, thank you so much once again. And I thank all our viewers as well who tuned in live as this broadcast was on. We had a comment from Mr. KP Singh as well. He says both public reps and government employees need to do what they're supposed to do. If this happens, this country will reach its pinnacle. So he's affirming what we've just discussed. So thank you once again, Mr. Saha, and to all the viewers who watched this today. Please do like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel because your support will make this channel grow and ensure that a lot of the conversations that we're having on this channel via different segments on different topics reaches people and makes them think about what's going on in the country, what are the burning issues, what are the nuances of the issues that are taking place in this country, because this is the sort of discussion and information that you do not get from mainstream media. So our purpose here is to ensure that people get the details, to get the nuances of different issues that are taking place in the country. So thank you once again, and I will see you on the other side with yet another uh, exciting new segment, hopefully very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.